Hi, good morning everyone. I think not a great thing to follow Prince Manvendra, very big shoes to fill here, but I'll try and do my best. Thank you so much, sir, for setting the context so well and saying that we should not just fight for our own rights or the community that we belong to, but I think each and every one here should be looking at the entire spectrum of human rights and definitely the Constitution. I think I was also going to mention the same thing to start the day by reading the preamble of the Constitution of India. I think there couldn't have been a better start and the sort of motivation it brings to us as individuals to really start our day and an event like this. So with that, I think I'll be talking about inclusion of women in India, in workplaces in India. And I think Ratna also mentioned the same thing. We have been talking about inclusion of women for the longest time now. I think ages, 1970s is when I think the first movement started and I mean we are in 2024, so I don't know if I should be proud to say that we are still talking about it or ashamed of that. But here we are. This slide to go. Sorry, yeah. So the business case for diversity and inclusion, I think we have a lot of employers here and a lot of job seekers here, and I wanted to just bring forward a few facts that researchers have continued to tell us that diverse workplaces are better, are more innovative, give better business results. I've just put a few stats here on the slide for everyone. Inclusive companies are 1.7 times more likely to have innovative leaders. Companies with more than 30% women executives are likely to outperform the others. Gender diverse companies are 27 more likely to have superior value creation. I mean, I can go on and on and on with a lot more research for you guys, but this is where we are at, right? But still, this sad reality is that it will still take us more than 130 years to bridge the gender pay gap. That's where we are at, despite the entire business case that we have formed in the last slide. There are 32.5% gap between men and women when it comes to economic participation and the opportunities that we get. Women in India are 19% lesser paid than men for similar roles that they are doing. That is the ground reality, and researchers also throw those stats to us. And these statistics are there despite all the legislation being in place. We started with the preamble. We have a lot of laws that follow the Constitution of India, like the Equal Remuneration Act, the Prevention of Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Act, the maternity benefits, minimum wages, and so on and so forth, right? These all have very nicely put down the bare minimum organizations can do to ensure that workplaces are inclusive and not just for women, for anyone working at the workplaces. Yet everything that I said before that also stands true. Now, why is it that it happens? There are three things that I could sort of understand as to why women inclusion is a topic that is still being talked about. One, of course, being the social construct as to how we have formed ourselves as a society over the years. The expectation from a specific gender to perform, behave in a certain way. To have those stereotypes about what a woman should do, what a man should do, can do or cannot do, and a few prejudices. Then there are organizational contexts as to what we as employers are doing, the policies, the structures, the opportunities, and the ladder that we are providing our employees to actually go forward. And then there are personal factors, which I think are beyond the control of an organization, but personally, how a woman feels, what is it that they are doing, the sort of family support that they have to actually step out of the homes and perform at their workplaces. So these are the three things that sort of impact inclusion of women at the workplace. Now, I wanted to directly jump into what makes sense to the audience here in terms of what organizations can do, should do. All the laws I sort of put in front of you, so I expect the bare minimum that all of us do follow the legal structures, have policies in place which ensure that there is equal remuneration and we don't take 130 plus years to bridge the gender pay gap. But I think the first step is to also acknowledge that there is a lack of diversity. And lack of diversity does not just mean that we hire women or we hire diverse workforce people at the junior level, but actually look at representation across the workforce. Now, women struggle with 4 M's. They are called the 4 M's of the workplace. Mobility, maternity, marriage, maternity, and menopause. There are the 4 M's which women struggle at, and one of the reasons, the 4 M's of that hamper inclusion of women at workplace are mobility, marriage, maternity, and menopause. One of the reasons that, earlier only the first 3 M's were being talked about, but when we realized that senior leadership, we were still not seeing women is when the 4th M was actually looked at, which is menopause, a very biological phenomena which I don't think people need to really put their brains together on, right? So that's where that's what you should be looking at when you're looking at women inclusion. Few steps I have listed down, very basics. I believe even Vividhata helps all of us do that is, first of all, start with inclusive job descriptions, the language that we are using. I still see a lot of job postings with the pronouns he being used, or saying that we prefer a male candidate, we prefer someone who is aggressive, assertive, words which don't really work for a lot of women on a psychological level. Leverage diversity job fairs, so glad to have a lot of inclusive employers here. Sensitize your teams. I think sensitization, sensitization, sensitization. The word cannot be said more and more, and I think people following me on the other orientations will also be speaking about the same thing. I think just joining the workforce is not enough, but looking at how do we create a culture of allyship, mentorship, and sponsorship. These are the 3 things that we as an employer should look at. And also, lastly, how do we create a community within our organization? So there's this famous boys club which has always existed at offices. Truth be told, there are sutta breaks which happen. Sorry for the word, but that's what they are called, right? Women are not included in those. Can you next time when you're planning an office party, plan it during work hours and not at 9 p.m. at night, when a woman may not be able to attend it for safety, family, whatever other issue she might have, which I think even men have, but they sort of are not given due credit to actually cater to their family responsibilities. Can we do that? Another thing is, can we be mindful of the office housework? Who is the person who organizes your team parties? Is that a woman by default? Is it the sort of role that we are giving women at the workplace? So the job descriptions that are being curated for men and women, can we be mindful that the jobs are similar and they are being given credit for exactly the same job, right? If we are creating differentiated jobs for men and women, women will never climb the ladder. They will remain where they are at because of the nature of the job. We are not asking for charity. We are saying give us equal opportunity to grow, to thrive at the workplace. And I think we are all here very confidently standing equal to anyone, men definitely, but we want more allies. So we have created a generation of empowered women. I think high time we have a generation of empowered men. That's all well ended at. Thank you so much.